Okay, so now we're going to go into the motion. We'll get into the monitor. It's a little bit more in detail, so we'll just go ahead and go over this one. It has the same concept in that we use two comparing statements or two necessary equations that need to be satisfied in order for us to enter into each if statement. So don't let these bug you. They're there to help you. Debug motion. If debug motion was 1 instead of 0, then all that happens is a serial print so that you can see what the value is for the motion. That's just a learning tool for you to utilize. It's very helpful, especially when we were writing code. So I recommend that you use that whenever you're wanting to add new code. And as always, I need to change this back to 0. The reason is because I only have one timer, and that is this one, the energy timer. Originally, I was using one of the timers to send data to Cayenne every, every 6 seconds, so that's 6,000 milliseconds. I would send data to Cayenne, say, to update this. But now I'm doing it differently, and so I hadn't changed them back to 0. But now that that's correct, let us see the way this operates. So first things first, we say the digital read command, and if you're curious about where all these are coming from, you can go to Energia reference, and they have their own key terms that is kind of neat once you get to know all of them. It's pretty much the first one here. So here, digital input output, digital read, right? And so it reads the value from a specified digital pin, either high or low. So it's a bool value, and it'll give you whether it'll give you a 1 or a 0. This is a good reference, and it's in the document as well if you need to refer back to it. So we use digital read to see if this is a 1 or a 0. PIR pin, as we discussed earlier, was 5. And it's a 1 or a 0 stored in there, and that makes sense because we're only looking to see if it's a 1 or a 0. And motion status, M status, motion Cayenne, is another character array that holds a couple values. So let's go into this one a little bit more in detail. I know we didn't get into it on the last one, but so here we have M status. So as you can see, it's a character string. So motion status is either off, on, or idle. So what does this mean? So if you have M status 0, you are looking at off. If you have M status 1, you are looking at on. And if you have M status equal to 2, you are looking at idle. And when I say looking, that means that this string, so if I were to say, hey, serial.print, and I wanted to say M status, say I wanted to say 2. So what would actually print out is idle, and not in the quotes, but it would just say idle. So that's a neat thing, is you are relating a number to a text. And this is very helpful because it lets us see words versus numbers. And this helps us monitor what the status is on the dashboard. So if it's cold, so you'll know that it's cold. If it's hot, you'll know that it was hot. If the air vent was closed or if it was open. So these are kind of better said in text format versus number format. Say if this was 0 and this one was 1 and this one was 2, then 0, 1, 2, 0, you would get kind of confused. So we made a character string that lets you assign a integer value 0, 1, or 2 to equal this string. And how are we using that? Well, let's go into that real quick. So here, if motion is equal to 1, so imagine if this motion was equal to 1. So the value is 1. Now M status, M Cayenne. Now M Cayenne is equal to off. So essentially what we're saying is M status, M Cayenne equal to off. And what does that mean? Well, that means that M Cayenne would have to be what integer? in order to be off. So if we go back here, off is in the 0 element. So that m cayenne would have been, is basically saying what is the value of m cayenne? It's 0. But let's go into it a little bit more. So let's start again. So motion, is the motion equal to 1? So imagine that it is. Say motion is equal to 1. And M status, is it off? Meaning, is the motion indicator on cayenne, is it off? Because we don't want to trigger it on if it is already on. So we check to see whether it is off first. Or, is the motion equal to 1 and M status is idle, which means it doesn't know what it is yet. So if you're starting the program and you don't have a value declared for M cayenne, motion cayenne, then you will go into this statement because it could be idle. It could be unknown, or say it wasn't defined yet. So that's a neat thing to have there, because sometimes it will need to kind of reset things. Okay, so say it was off. So that means that motion cayenne, M cayenne, channel 20 is off. Okay, so that means we enter into this statement. So if energy mode was 1, we would restart the timer, because if there's motion in the room, then you want your room to continuously monitor at 78 degrees. We'll go more into that later. But we update data publish. M cayenne is now equal to 1. See how we didn't know what M cayenne was before this? That's because it could have been 2 in the idle state, because it wasn't any kind of defined value. So now M cayenne is defined as 1. So we know that this for sure means M status 1 is now on. That is what, now this is what will be read from after making motion cayenne 1. Okay, and then we update this value, update the data, and then we can publish it if you're debugging. So now let's go, imagine we've already gone through this. Now this is in fact 0. Well, if motion status is 0, we see already that we won't enter into this if statement. But M cayenne status, is it off? No, it is not off either. So what to do? So what happens is, motion, is it 0? Yes, it just happened that there was no motion detected. And is M status on? Yes, because it was now set from this previous example. And so now we'll enter into this state and we'll publish to cayenne that the motion is off.